and we'll kick off episode 3 of the Love Your Shelf podcast. And today we were feeling nostalgic. So we're going to talk about books and movies and other stuff that we really find sentimental or otherwise nostalgic in some way.
I told you this is one of my favorite subjects anytime. So let me know if I talk too much.
No, I'm ready for it. I'm ready.
Okay, good. Here we go.
All right. So let's start off with books. I think I want to
Okay.
start because whenever I think about being a kid and reading, first of all my family, I'm not sure this is super surprising, big readers. And so there were books all over everywhere. But the one that I remember the most as being like the one where I sort of learned how to read it
Yes.
was A Kiss for Little Bear.
Oh, I'm not familiar.
Yeah, well,
Do
now
share.
yeah. It's super cute. Just a total sweet little, little book. But it was one that I would just pick up by myself and read it over and over again. And so
that title itself is so sweet.
Exactly.
I wonder if we have it in our collection.
I think we do. I think
my
there are
gosh.
Little Bears.
I'm going to write it down. I've got to go find it.
But then there were also books that were around because they were books that my grandfather or my mom or somebody had read before when they were kids. So in addition to being big readers, also big pack rats. So
me too.
Yeah,
is there a theme here?
I think so. How did we end up working in a library? But so, I read all the Nancy Drews and Hardy Boys, and I read Trixie Belden. I read Boxcar Children.
See, and I did not read Nancy Drew, Boxcar Children, any of those, which is so weird because, like, looking back, I feel like those would have been right up my alley. So I guess it's never too late.
No, you can still go back and read those, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, for the Nancy Drew, my grandfather had like the whole set from when he was a kid.
Oh,
And
that's amazing.
Yeah, they were crumbling and falling apart, but I still read them.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then I got into things like Secret Garden and Little Women and Little House on the Prairie.
That was the first one I wrote down.
Little House on the Prairie.
Yes, I loved that series. I feel like it was the first, I'd say, novel that like my mom and I read. Like she started out reading it out loud to me, and eventually I think I would take my turns reading it out loud. But it just, I don't know. So I immediately think of bonding with my mom, but also like me and my friends would play Little House on the Prairie.
Oh yeah.
You grew up on a farm, so I'm sure, you had a lot to work with.
Yes, we basically were Little House on the Prairie, but we still
right.
like super good. Yeah.
No, those are just such beautiful memories.
Yeah, and then there's another one that I feel like I need to go back and read it because it made such an impact on me, but I haven't read it since I was a little kid, which is Island of the Blue Dolphins.
Fun. Island of the Blue Dolphins.
Yeah. And anyway, I'm going to revisit that because as I was like thinking about this, that really popped up as that was one of my favorites, but I need to revisit it.
Yeah, well, and maybe we should have a part 2 where we should each revisit something and then we can talk about our thoughts now.
Exactly. Yeah. Let's do it.
Yep. Okay. Stay tuned, guys.
Right. So, of course, then, you start to get older. And so I got into the tween stuff, which was like, there was a lot less of it back then than there is now.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
It's crazy. But I like the Babysitter's Club and Sweet Valley High. Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret.
Oh my God. How did I forget to write down all of Judy Blume, all of Beverly Cleary? Yes. Judy Blume, I feel like I learned a lot about growing up. I'll just say that from Judy Blume.
Yeah. And then I got into like well, I would just read whatever my parents read. But books like Watcher in the Woods. Did you ever read that book?
No, I don't know that one. I'm writing down so many books.
Have you ever seen the movie?
Mm-mm.
Oh man.
No.
So it was very scary to me when I was little. And then there's a movie
Mm-hmm.
with Betty Davis in it, and
Awesome.
yes, when she's very much older, and I mean it was released in that. And we're talking about this was an older movie, but I convinced my mom that I wanted to watch that movie, and it scared the pants off me.
Did you have to pretend that it didn't really scare you though, so your
Oh
mom
yeah,
wouldn't be
no, I
like,
had to watch the whole thing.
right, exactly.
Yeah, no, the book was super scary, but I started to get into that kind of stuff about that age.
Around what age was that?
Oh, tween age, or a
Yeah,
little bit
yeah,
younger, maybe
yeah, me
9,
too.
10. So I
Yeah,
don't know.
yeah. I definitely realized my love for mysteries. Yeah, around that age. But again, I feel like I didn't start to really nurture that side of me until I was a little bit older.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, because a lot of mine are, I was gonna say, actually, a lot of them have, female characters at the helm,
Hmm.
with a little like Harry Potter and Hank the Cowdog mixed in.
So
But
what's on your list as a little kid?
well, yeah, so I started with Little House on the Prairie, but of course, I mean, again, I was a little bit, I don't know, I'd say I was maybe started in like first grade and read
Hmm.
them, yeah, as I was growing up. But I think my Kiss for Little Bear book was Madeline, just the first Madeline book.
Oh
That
yeah.
was I mean, I had it memorized. So before I could read, I would pretend that I could read because I had the whole book memorized. So I'd, turn the pages, and I felt very cool. So Madeline, I loved Shel Silverstein's books of poetry.
Hmm.
A Light On in the Attic, Where the Sidewalk Ends. I also, Aaliyah and I were talking. I asked her for some input because we're about the same age. I had totally forgotten about the American Girl books. So Aaliyah and I grew up in the 90s, but I don't know. I guess American Girl maybe came out in the 80s, or anyway.
Yeah.
It's just so funny because those dolls, when I think about those dolls, I think of like, I don't know, they're pretty materialistic, I guess. They were really expensive and their accessories were expensive, but their books were really good, and you learned about a part of history. Each of them come from a different part of a different place in history, and so you learn about the important things that were going on during their time period. um so yeah, I don't know, I guess that, I don't know, just
Yeah.
that difference is so hilarious to me looking back.
Right.
It's because they were really educational.
Yeah, I didn't have, or maybe I don't know. I wasn't exposed to American Girl dolls when I was a kid, so it maybe came a little later than that. But
Hmm.
and when I was a kid, everybody I knew wanted to have a Cabbage Patch doll.
Yes, okay, yeah, I wasn't exposed to Cabbage Patch really, so I guess it was just that change. But
Yeah.
I had an American Girl doll, but I wasn't easy on her. Like, I played with her. I truly played with her. She didn't sit in a glass case or anything. uh, but yeah.
Well, what about as you got older? Were there any others that like?
Well, of course, I mean, I feel like we could, if I had a nickel for every time I brought up Harry Potter in my daily life, let alone on this podcast, I mean, I feel like that was the first book that I read where like I stayed up all night reading.
Hmm.
I mean, I always loved to read, but that was like I literally could not put it down. Um, yeah, that series just is my childhood. If I had
Yeah,
to, yeah.
I think so
Um,
many people seem to have that same experience that
I do
that are
too.
about your age. Yeah, because for one thing, they're nice and hefty, so
Yes.
they're long and you can really get into it. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that was much after my time, so I didn't. I mean, I
Of
was
course,
already an adult.
right.
Yeah, when
Yeah,
they
and
came out.
I do wonder, if they had come out. when I was a little bit older if I would have been exposed to them. But what I love about my job now is seeing all these kids pick up books like that. I even there's a little girl that comes to story time, Rory, shout out to Rory. And she has been listening to, like, she'll have her Alexa will read Harry Potter to her. Like, she'll be in her room listening to Alexa read Harry Potter to her, and I just love that. I love that so much.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. But anyway, Harry Potter, I wrote down The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. I hate to admit it, but I never read that whole series. But that The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe is one that's always stuck with me too. I just think there are so many layers to that book. I think it's something you can learn something from that story as a child, as an old person. Yeah, it's just it's such a beautiful story.
Well, I think, yeah, there are so many that this almost could just go on.
Yeah, I was gonna say we could have just done a book, a book episode.
Right. But then I started to think. So when I thought about Watcher in the Woods, and then I thought about, well, there was a movie of it. I started thinking about movies, and you and I were talking the other day about watching movies as a kid and watching things over and over, which I would never do anymore. Like I don't watch anything a second time, pretty much.
Right.
But as a kid, and it wasn't like we had, less, fewer things to watch. It was just, that's, I guess, maybe it's a childhood thing.
That's what I was going to say is I think a lot of kids at least operate that way. Because I did the same thing. Yeah, I don't know. It's a lovely thing about being a kid. I wish I could, entertain myself with something over and over and over and over again.
Yeah, no, it's a little bit harder now. But yeah, we watched pretty much every movie that was in the rental place, which
R.I.P.
was called exactly. It was called The Movie Store. It was the name.
Oh my God. I love it. To the point.
Exactly. And that is that's what we called every rental place that we came in contact with until there were no more rental places. But they were all the movie store to us.
The movie store.
Yeah. And we wore out Thriller.
Oh, yes.
And we wore out everything Disney because my mom was super into movies. So she showed us all the movies that were already nostalgia in the 80s, like some of the stuff from the 60s and
right
and 70s. So Parent Trap, the original, and that kind of stuff. We just watched those over and over.
I love that. I don't know. I feel like I have friends or have had friends over the years who weren't exposed to, like you were saying, like things that their parents found nostalgic. And that is so sad to me because, I don't know what I would do without some of that stuff. Well,
it's really an opportunity to share something of yourself with your child, something that you can bond over. And I would hate to see that not happen because
I know
it was definitely, that was a huge part of my childhood, is watching all the stuff that my mom loved.
Yep. Absolutely.
And my dad too. There were tons of things like that we all shared as a family because we did lots of family movie night type things,
Oh, yep. It's a fun way to bond. Absolutely.
Yeah. And of course, then when you get older, you start going to sleepovers.
Right.
And so there's a whole other category in my mind of like sleepover movies.
Some of them, like maybe you weren't allowed to watch at home.
Right.
Yeah. Yep.
So like I can remember watching Top Gun and Cocktail. So of course, Tom Cruise in there.
I love to imagine a group of girls at a sleepover watching Top Gun. It's a great image.
Oh yeah. And these were sleepover movies that were like frequent flyers, like
right,
pun intended. But yeah, we wouldn't just watch them once. Again, it was one of those like if you go to a sleepover, then you're gonna watch one of those.
Yep.
But Can't Buy Me Love was another one.
I've not seen that one.
Oh gosh, Patrick Dempsey as a
Uh-huh.
teenager.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, you should definitely check that out. I
I'll
mean,
jot it
it's
down.
so 80s, but
Yeah.
it's worth it. And Adventures in Babysitting is another one that we watched until we could probably repeat the whole thing.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
I love rewatching those movies too. It's crazy how much I still remember.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it all just stays right in there.
And then I got a little bit older and started to watch stuff like Pauly Shore was big, so it was like Encino Man
Oh
and
my gosh.
Son-in-Law, and those are two that I think that my family and I probably would still recognize all the quotes from those movies.
Mm-hmm.
And then Young Guns was another one of those. So once
Okay.
you get into your like tween years, teen years, and start getting crushes
Oh,
on the
yes.
leading men.
We
So
talked
that one,
about movies that made us a woman.
exactly. And then another one I remember is Hocus Pocus, which is having some
Oh,
kind of resurgence right
it
now. I think
is.
everybody's talking about it. I don't know if it's because it's like an anniversary year for it,
Well,
maybe.
and I wonder too if it, because I watched that a lot as a kid too, and it could be that I was about to say the kids my age, the people my age, adult humans that are my age, are having kids, and I'm sure they're showing it to their kids. So
Oh yeah,
that's my theory.
that makes sense.
Yeah,
But it kind of confused me when I saw it pop up a few months ago,
yeah.
everywhere, and I thought, wow,
Oh yeah,
it's been a while.
that's a great one though. Well, and it's funny because I mean, like I said, I was a 90s kid, but I have some movies from the 80s. You and I talked about the Goonies. You were saying that
Hmm.
you were shocked at how many of your friends hadn't heard of the Goonies. Is that right?
Yeah, I guess people were a little bit older than me,
I
just
guess
hadn't
that
even
makes
ever heard of it.
sense. Yeah. Oh, that's one that I watched a lot as a kid.
Yes, yeah, that one was
It's
over
so
and over.
fun.
Yeah.
Hmm. And I did Disney too. I I watched a documentary on Disney Plus. I can't remember what it was about, but it was kind of about like the resurgence of Disney's golden age, or like their
Hmm.
second golden age. And I knew that the Disney movies that came out when I was a kid were good. Um, but yeah, they're some of the best looking back and
Right.
even watching that. I mean, I'm talking, Lion King, Little Mermaid.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, so I'll show my kids that someday. Um, what else? The Sandlot was one that I loved. Harriet the Spy. I would play
Oh yeah,
spy. Yeah, it was really
I
fun.
remember those books from. Yeah, I read the book
Yes.
when I was a
Yeah.
kid. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see, A Little Princess. Oh, and then here's some other. I think this was Neverending Story, 80s.
Yes.
Ugh, I loved the Neverending Story.
That if I watched it right this minute, I would cry
I
watching
know.
it.
Oh, the horse. What was the horse's name? Bard.
Atreyu.
Atreyu. Oh, goodness gracious.
Yeah,
That's a great one though.
there were a lot of those that we, as I was going through my like mental list, I was like, we sure spent a lot of like lazy afternoons bawling our way through a movie.
It
I guess that's part of the whole experience. I
I
don't
was about to say it helps you grow emotionally, right?
know. Right. Catharsis. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly.
Well, and then, so as I mentioned, you get into the era where you're like crushing
Yep.
on the boys. What were your crushes when you were a kid? Or
Oh
like your first crush,
goodness.
if you can remember?
Okay. First quote unquote celebrity crush. I adored the band Hanson. The three long blonde haired brothers. And I loved the drummer. He was the youngest one. His name was Zach. He was like 11 years old. Okay. And
Right.
so I was 7 or 8, but he was a man in my eyes.
Oh, of course. Yeah. So
So
much
that
older.
was that. Yeah, exactly. He knew the ways of the world. I just knew it. So that was who popped into my head immediately. That child. What about you?
Oh gosh. My first, well, that I can remember would be Luke Skywalker.
Oh my gosh. I thought
Yeah.
Luke Skywalker was so cute.
Yes.
That's so funny.
And then
And I didn't understand why Leia was interested in Han Solo. And now I
yeah, it's
understand.
different. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say. That it started off Luke Skywalker was my crush, and I got
Mhm.
older, Han
Yep.
Solo. Yeah, I was
Exactly.
all about that. But then Will Wheaton was one that I had a crush on, and I still follow him
Wait,
on social
who is
media.
that?
He was in Stand By Me, and like he was like a teen heartthrob. Uh,
Oh, okay. I've seen Stand By Me. I'll have to.
yeah, he's the
I bet I'd recognize his face.
yes, you would, and he's still like does stuff now. But anyway, yeah, he was a crush, and then another. Oh, actually, this is another movie that we watched over and over. Was Mannequin,
I don't know
which
that one
it
either.
is an utterly ridiculous farcical movie, but it's cute, and Andrew McCarthy is the star of that, and yeah, so I had a big crush on him,
Oh gosh.
and
That. Oh,
yeah,
go
you
ahead.
would. It's hilarious. I mean, you would be like, I can't believe that Crystal spent 50 hours of her life watching this, but
And
maybe
that was
even
in a
more.
week.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh
Probably more than
goodness.
that.
Ugh.
But then, you graduate. I graduated to like Val Kilmer and Johnny Depp
Mhm. Mhm.
and
Oh,
Daniel Day Lewis.
yep. I
Yeah.
did love old school Johnny Depp. Um, I was gonna say that when I mentioned The Sandlot earlier, that was another. I mean, there were like, I guess, 9 boys playing on a baseball team, so there's got to be 1 out of 9 that you have a crush on, right?
It seems
So,
to work out that way, doesn't
yeah,
it?
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Well, then it got me thinking about Saturday morning cartoons, which sadly I don't, it's not a thing anymore because you can watch cartoons whenever you want. But
Right.
um, we really did. Like we watched the Smurfs and
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. And there was He-Man was one my little brother loved,
Yep.
and so there was we spent a lot of hours watching cartoons as well. Basically, what I'm saying is that our parents just left us in the house watching TV and movies. But no, I'm just kidding.
No, oh
No,
man, but we
we played
watched
a
a lot
lot
of movies
outside a
too.
lot. Yeah.
Well, we didn't have cable, so I had to, whenever I was at a friend's house, I would soak up as much Nick Jr. or Nickelodeon or Disney Channel as I could.
Yeah.
Um, and like, I was super into the Rugrats, which is not not the best. Um, I mean, it was great at the time, obviously, but it's just not one that I felt like has held up. I don't know.
Well, those
Someone would
are.
probably fight me on that, but anyway.
Well, I completely forgot until just now about the ones that were smarter that were on, like Pinky and the Brain. I loved until I was like,
Yeah.
as a teenager as well.
Yes, absolutely. That have held up.
Mm-hmm.
Um, well, I was going to ask you because these are 2 that might have come out in the 80s, and they were on some videos that my grandmother had taped for us, and I never knew what they came on, where it came from. So, did
Okay.
you ever hear of Under the Umbrella Tree?
No,
Okay.
I don't think so.
I have no idea where it came from. Like, I don't know if I just had a weird video vortex thing. Like, I don't know. I have no idea where it came from, but it was like puppets, and they all lived
Oh,
in a house with a grown woman who, I don't know, let them live with her. I'm not sure if they paid rent. I don't know what the relationship was. But the other one was Lady Lovely Locks.
wow. No, neither of those is ringing any bells for
That
me.
one was a super weird cartoon, and she had like magical blonde hair.
Oh,
That's all I really remember. But
Well,
goodness,
we had some pretty weird ones that we wore out too, like The Last Unicorn.
I wrote that one down. That was the first one I wrote down.
Yeah, that was my first one too. And then we watched well, there's now I can't think of the name of it, but The Ringing Bell. Lots of like anime style stuff that
Mm-hmm.
just we just it didn't make a whole lot of sense to us, but we were kind of compelled to watch it.
Yes,
Uh,
I have something like that written down too. And I'm kind
well,
of afraid to go back and revisit it. Like I feel like it would creep me out.
I know. Yeah, I was scared by the Dark Crystal
Hmm.
when I was a kid, and that's so I don't even like to look at it anymore now. So
Yeah, yeah, the
yeah.
memories.
Ooh. Well, um, any other nostalgia bits that you want to toss out there before we talk about what's making us happy this week?
Happy this week. One of a movie that I loved that it still cracks me up that I loved it so much was the musical Seven Brides for Seven Brothers.
Oh,
Um,
yes. We watched that one over and over
you
too.
did? Oh my
Yes.
gosh. Yes. I mean, quite literally over and over again. And my sister and I watched it together within the last couple of years, and we were just like, man, this story is so problematic.
Yes.
I mean,
It's
it's
wild.
kidnap. It is about kidnapping.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's a lot of those that just don't bear a whole lot of scrutiny.
No. Yeah, yeah. It's kind of a wonder that it was made. Um, but anyway, that was I'll leave you with Seven Brides for Seven Brothers.
Well, I hope that people are getting some use out of our recommendations or musings or I don't know,
Yeah,
recollections
I mean,
even.
it's so easy to find a lot of this stuff now.
Oh yeah.
Maybe not under the umbrella tree, but otherwise, yeah.
There are people out there who love that, I'm sure.
I know.
But
I need to do some heavy research.
yeah. Well, so this week, what I'm loving or what's making me happy is actually some pretty dark stuff, but I really
All
enjoyed
right,
it. So
hit
I'm going
me.
to share. I have binged two series over the past week that I think almost couldn't be further apart. But one
Great.
is season 3 of Westworld, um, which is
Oh,
certainly dark and definitely not for the whole family, but very smart. And this season, I think, was the best season out of all three.
oh,
Um,
it makes me want to catch up. It's a great
yes,
show.
very good. I won't say anything else, but it's very good. And then another one, which is kind of like a sleeper hit, I think,
Hmm.
is a series called Dead to Me. Um,
I almost started it.
yes,
So,
well, go
okay,
for it.
great.
It's dark, but it's comedy, and
Yeah.
um, about it's kind of a like a wacky. I don't know. It's hard to say. Like cross between Weekend at Bernie's and Fargo with two
Oh,
female characters at the helm. I don't know. Something
I
like
haven't even seen it, but I already feel like that's a great way to like I feel like I can almost get an idea of kind of what you're touching on.
yeah. It was definitely worth just banging out all the episodes one after.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I've yeah, I haven't started anything new as far as a series goes. But the thing that's making me happy this week, and it kind of goes along with nostalgia, um, Jerry Seinfeld has a new stand-up special on Netflix. And it was like there was, I mean, I guess with any stand-up special there are going to be some lulls, but overall, as I told Aaliyah, I guffawed several times throughout. And yeah, if you can make me laugh out loud, then I'll take it.
I
And
think his comedy has gotten like he's honed it so much more from like the just like that, observational comedy that he used to
yes,
do. It's gotten a lot
yes,
better, yeah.
yeah, I just and and it still felt like Jerry Seinfeld, like it still was observational, but yeah, I think you're right. I just I really enjoyed it. I had a great time watching it. So, I recommend that for sure.
Well, so that's our third episode. And we haven't talked about a contest. Maybe we should hear about people's favorite, anything nostalgic.
Yeah, hit us with your nostalgic,
Yeah, especially
with
the
your nostalgia. Yeah.
weird, obscure stuff. The
Oh,
weirder, the better, maybe.
I could talk about that all day long. Truly.
All right. Well, we will talk to everybody next week. Stay tuned and listen in for all the things that we have coming up. We're still doing stuff like this podcast that's virtual, but we'll be ramping that up as we get ready for summer reading.
Yeah, doing a lot of planning right now.
Yes. So keep an ear out for the things that we're doing, and we'll hopefully see you soon.
Thank you guys. Bye.
Bye.